One issue that many Canadians face is the amount of money childcare costs. The average childcare is between $40 to $50 a day, so a family with two children will be paying $800 to almost $1,000 every 2 weeks. For some families, that is almost the entire paycheck for one of the parents, which still does not factor in expenses for travel to and from work, gas, insurance, wear and tear on the car, and sometimes even parking. Due to this, some families will have one parent stay at home with their children. This may impact the child academically, socially, or even both. They do have subsidized care, but not all childcare centers take children on subsidy. Waitlists are even longer for children on subsidy, as some centers only take a few students, and some children are labeled if staff find out that they are on subsidy. A solution to this could be either free childcare in Canada or have childcare be on a scale of income for each family. In Belgium and France, they have free childcare. In Belgium, childcare is free of charge for parents. However, childcare is only free when the child turns 2.5. Ratios can be as high as 20 to 24 children to one teacher. The centers are open Monday to Friday, but are only half days on Wednesdays. Other paid childcare is offered for the afternoons on Wednesdays and before and after care, which is subsidized for families in need. In France, childcare is free for children after the age of 3 until they enter school. Like Belgium, they are not open all days, being closed on Wednesday. They also have paid scale for hot lunches, so families with higher incomes will pay more for their hot lunches for their children than other families making less. Another option that Canada can adapt is having a paid scale. In France, they take in consideration families' financial constraints. The government provides funding to all children and their families for leisure services, and before the age of 3, childcare cost is on a financial sliding scale.
Hi everyone. Today, the issue that I will be exploring and discussing in this proposal is the divisive nature of the kindergarten model in Ontario. In Canada, early childhood educators have been fighting for professional pay and professional recognition for many years. In the Ontario full day kindergarten program, early childhood educators require a 2-year college diploma, and kindergarten teachers require a 4-year university degree. An early childhood educator's annual average salary is less than half that of the kindergarten teachers, although both professions are required to do more or less the same job. The divisive nature of educator roles, qualifications, compensation, and licensure of early childhood educators and teachers presents both obstacles and challenges. Little research is available that examines if and how these two separate ideological systems of education and care can successfully merge within the Ontario kindergarten model. If we're looking at this from a humane perspective, this is an issue of undermining the value that early childhood educators bring to the kindergarten program. Early childhood educators working in the kindergarten program have almost identical roles and responsibilities to their teaching partner, however, receive less than half of their pay, as mentioned earlier. ECEs are an essential and integral part of the program. Their expertise of development and care in the early years has been reduced to a wage that does not reflect all they bring to the program. If we want quality educators working in kindergarten classrooms, we need to treat them as though we value them. ECEs are also often not included in important meetings pertaining to children in their class, such as individual education plan meetings with parents and resource staff. If ECEs continue to be treated as they are currently, it is very possible we will see high rates of burnout. If we look at this issue from an educational perspective, a proposal by Stephen Lecce in October of 2020 reads that they are considering changing the qualifications for people looking after kindergarten age children and older to anyone with a diploma in child and youth care or recreation and leisure services. This was a quote by the Association of Early Childhood Educators of Ontario. This is a huge threat to the role of the ECEs in kindergarten. ECEs require a 2-year diploma that is concentrated on the early years in development and early childhood. ECEs leave the diploma program with ample knowledge and expertise and experience that has prepared them for working in early childhood settings. To extend this role to those who have diplomas unrelated to the field says a lot about how the government views our profession. Not to mention that there is rarely an increase in wages if someone holds a 4-year degree in early childhood education as opposed to the 2-year diploma. If we look at this from an economical perspective, A forklift operator in Ontario who holds a 2-day training certificate can be paid up to $25 an hour, which is on par with an ECE working in a kindergarten program and more than the average pay of an ECE working in a childcare center, which according to the Government of Canada is $18 an hour, which is barely a livable wage. The expectation of ECs in the kindergarten program are almost completely on par with their OCT counterpart. These are barely livable wages and do not reflect the training and education that ECEs possess. If we want quality educators working in the kindergarten program, we need to start paying them as such.
The relationship between both early childhood care and compulsory schooling has been an issue for some time. There have been so many changes in the last 20 years to help bridge the gap between childcare and compulsory schooling. However, we're just not there yet. An issue we're currently facing is schoolification creeping into the ECE system. Schoolification occurs in the early years because there is a significant concern over children's readiness to start compulsory schooling. So you must be wondering what schoolification is. Well, schoolification refers to the process of early childhood education becoming more school-like. School readiness is a measure of how prepared a child is to succeed in compulsory schooling. In Canada, we currently have a split system in which provision is delivered in two separate settings for younger and older children before they enter compulsory schooling, which is childcare and full-day kindergarten. The first setting is childcare setting, aimed at young children prior to the school years. It's usually for children between the ages of 0 to 4, also including older children if they opt out of full-day kindergarten. Our second setting is full-day kindergarten, which is often closely associated with CSE, situated in primary schooling and governed by the Ministry of Education. Full-day kindergarten is 2 years of full-day schooling before first grade, beginning the year children turn 4. Since there is a close association between ECE and FDK and CSE, there is a tendency to schoolification, as Moss describes it. How does the structural context affect CSE and ECE's relationship? Well, according to Moss, the split system in early education setting makes both systems weaker, allowing the early years to be reduced to 4 to 5 years. Thus, the chances of developing a strong equal partnership with CSE is greater. A weakened system allows compulsory school ideals and traditions to sneak into the system. Schoolification is intended to make children ready for primary schooling and help children achieve academic goals. These ideals are often integrated in FDK and childcare settings. It usually happens the closer the child is to starting school. Whereas in the early year setting, there is a huge focus on children's learning through play. It gives them a chance and a time for learning that cannot be achieved through completing a worksheet. Looking at the FDK document, it states its program is child-centered, developmentally appropriate for 4 and 5-year-old children. The purpose of the program is to establish a strong foundation for learning in the early years and to do so in a safe and caring play-based environment that promotes all children's development. However, FDK setting exposes children to a culture of primary schooling, which is very different from a play-based environment. It exposes children to a primary schooling because one, it's located in the same building as CSE, and two, it is overseen by the same government ministry, which allows early education to adapt CSE's culture and traditions. In order to prepare children for school, FDK has implemented a substantial amount of assessments on young children, which is often standardized. There is an emphasis on assessments in FDK that evaluates children's letter, sound, number, and sight word recognition. Many of the assessments are meant to measure the cognitive development of young children. From a humane perspective, children should be looked at as children, not as individuals who need to be prepared for compulsory schooling. There should be no need to pressure children on hitting a particular milestone or skill at such an early age. Introducing school ideals and traditions to prepare children for the next step limits children's creativity and curiosity because children are expected to fit the mold required for schooling. School readiness and school-like activities do not allow children to discover on their own and follow their interests and explore and problem solve. From an economic perspective, school readiness tends to be viewed through an economic necessity rather than children's educational needs within the society. ECE is viewed as a benefit for children, the society, and its economy as well. According to Moss, human capital theorists have asserted that the most productive form of educational investment bearing the best return is to be made in children below compulsory school age. When looking at the early year study floor report and the FDK document, there was language used in both documents to imply that education aims to help prepare children for the market economy. The early year study floor report states that early childhood education helps prepare children for the 21st century workforce and helps parents out of poverty and stimulates the economy, increases high school graduation rates as well. The FDK document program states its goal is to help children make a smoother transition to grade 1, improve children's prospects for success in school and life beyond school. The human capital theory is a driving force for school vocation and school readiness, and encourages the idea that we must educate each child and generation to be more productive and producing member of our society.
Propose that in Canada, we have childcare be on a paid scale depending on household income. Taking the model that France does with hot lunches, but towards the cost for childcare. The paid scale would be until September when the child turns 4 years old and is entering kindergarten. Canada will still have the option of a year to 18 months of mat leave, but at the age of 4 they'll enter kindergarten in a public or Catholic setting. Ratios will stay the same so that quality does not suffer. Also, payment will come directly out of a paycheck and go to the government. The government will then pay the centers the costs. Doing this will eliminate childcare centers to handpick families with higher incomes and would also give every child the education they deserve. Canada will also develop the model of Denmark's no child waitlist by opening more childcare centers when needed. Giving every child their right to childcare gives them the building blocks to develop the skills academically and socially needed for kindergarten. This can be the difference of children liking and not liking school, as if they started kindergarten without these, they can fall behind quickly and may not reach their full potential. Like France, Canada does offer tax breaks for children that attend sports and leisure activities called the Children's Fitness Tax Credit. Having these incentives also support the children in the physical domain and depending on the sport that they're playing, also supports the children socially.
In order to bridge the disparities between the two roles in kindergarten of the OCT and the ECE, more needs to be done in lifting up and recognizing the value of the early childhood educator. In Sweden, the status of early childhood educators corresponds to the status of school teachers. Both groups are equally referred to as teachers. Early childhood education is characterized by an academic aspiration. The staff is supposed to have a tertiary qualification, and universities offer courses in early childhood education at high academic levels that comes from a long tradition. Our first proposal for change with regard to this issue is keeping the status quo and rejecting Stephen Lecce's new proposal for changes in educational requirements for those working with kindergarten students. We need qualified professionals in the field, and allowing those with no experience in ECE work in a kindergarten program devalues the profession. An additional proposal could entail ECEs working in the kindergarten program to require a 4-year bachelor's degree in early childhood studies. Currently, without further education, a 4-year bachelor's degree in the field does not provide much career advancement. Therefore, this could be an enticement. In Belgium, assistants to teachers, puericultrices, possess a 3-year secondary qualification. And in Sweden and Finland, the qualification requirements of preschool teachers is higher education to a bachelor's degree. Our last proposal for change is an additional educational requirement in the form of an alternative teachers college that would prepare ECEs to strictly work in the kindergarten program, but this qualification would certify them as an OCKT, an Ontario certified kindergarten teacher, where their wages would also be enhanced.
OCED warns that primary schools need to do more to be ready for children rather than the other way around. The report points out that research is increasingly highlighting that the more age and child appropriate the pedagogical practices are, the greater the benefits for children's social and cognitive development. While I agree that primary schooling should do more since there's been an emphasis on their ideals and traditions being important to the early years, I believe CSE ideals and traditions should not dominate or pressure the early childhood education system. And ECE ideas and traditions should not neither pressure CSC. Similar to what Dahlberg and Lenz propose in the text, I believe there needs to be a shared understanding between both settings where they can co-construct their understanding of a child, teacher, and his or her role of knowledge and learning. I propose the Ministry of Education to create a task force where they work together to create equal partnerships, where the values and goals of both settings are incorporated. Seeing as the Ministry of Education manages all childcare settings and FTK settings, they should be a cohesive early childhood education system from birth to 6 years old. There should be no divide between childcare and full-day kindergarten. In Sweden, their educational system provides preschool for all young children from birth to 6 years of age. And their integrated system understands children as learners from birth, not needed to be ready to learn, but inherently capable and keen to do so. They start formalized compulsory schooling at the age of 7. And Sweden spends 3 times more than most Western countries on early childhood education service, but does not burden educators with assessments, testings, and school-like activities. By implementing a task force, it can help create strong early childhood education system that stands up for the rights of lifelong learning and promotes equal partnership between both settings.